Comfort is killing your potential. Every time you choose the easy path, you quietly bury another piece of yourself. I didn't understand this truth for years, and then my entire life began to collapse. I remember the first warning signs. They were quiet, almost invisible at first. A missed deadline, a broken promise to myself. One workout skipped turned into a month. One tomorrow became a permanent excuse. I thought I was safe in my comfort zone. But the truth? Comfort was eating me alive. It didn't break me in one big explosion. It broke me slowly, silently, piece by piece, until one day I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize who I had become. My eyes looked empty, my face lifeless. I whispered, "What happened to you?" And deep inside, a voice answered coldly, "You traded your future for comfort." That sentence haunted me for weeks, because deep down, I knew it was true. Every time I avoided the hard choice, I was training myself to be weaker. Every time I hit snooze, I lost my edge. But then something happened, something so painful I couldn't ignore it. Life cornered me, stripped me bare, and for the first time, I saw the truth. Comfort had been my silent executioner. The easy road is never free. It charges the highest price of all. The price of potential, the price of dreams. And I was paying it without realizing it, until the collapse forced me awake. That's where my story begins. The day I lost everything I thought I had. The day I realized comfort was death. And pain was the only path to life. I thought avoiding pain was keeping me safe. I told myself I was protecting my peace, but the truth was far darker than that lie. Every excuse became a chain around my life, and I didn't even see it tightening on me. I woke up each morning already tired inside. My alarm rang, and I hit snooze again. "I'll start tomorrow," I whispered to myself. But tomorrow never came. It never does. It's the cruelest lie we keep repeating. The mirror showed me a face I didn't trust, eyes that avoided their own reflection, dreams buried under a mountain of fear. I smiled at others, but hollowed within. My silence was louder than any scream. I told myself stories to justify the delay. "You're not ready yet. Just wait longer. You need more time before you begin." But deep down, I knew the truth inside. I was just afraid of the pain of failing. And here's the strange thing about fear. It doesn't keep you safe. It kills you. Not instantly, but slowly, piece by piece. It strips away your courage every day until you no longer recognize yourself. I remember one night staring at my phone, scrolling through lives that weren't mine. Friends chasing dreams, building futures. And me? I was stuck in the same place, paralyzed by my own silent excuses. It's not fair, I thought, rage boiling. Why do they get to live fully, not me? But the truth stabbed deep in my chest. They weren't luckier, they were braver. And I was just hiding in comfort. Comfort is a sweet poison we drink daily. It tastes safe, familiar, almost harmless. But the more I swallowed it, the weaker I became. It softened me, dulled me, broke me down, and I couldn't escape the prison I built. I'd laugh with friends like nothing was wrong. I'd post online like life was just fine. But when the lights turned off at night, my chest tightened with silent regret. I knew I was betraying my own potential. How many dreams have I buried with later? How many moments did I kill with tomorrow? Each delay was a funeral for my own fire, and I was the one digging my own grave. One shovel of excuses after another, I told myself I was waiting for the right time. But time never waits for anyone. It runs. And with every tick of the clock, I lost. Not to the world, not to anyone else, to the enemy inside my own head. Sometimes I'd hear a whisper at night, a voice I couldn't silence or escape. It said, "You're wasting your life away." I tried to drown it with noise and sleep, but deep down I knew the voice was right. I told myself I was protecting my peace by avoiding pain. But the truth was darker. I was running away day after day while pretending that I had control of my life. Deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Every morning, the alarm screamed at me, and every morning I silenced it. Snooze, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Each tap was another broken promise, another betrayal of the person I wanted to be. I'd stand in front of the mirror staring. A face I didn't recognize looked back at me. Tired eyes, slouched shoulders, a shadow. I whispered, "Tomorrow, I'll fix this mess." But tomorrow never came. Only shame did. At work, I pretended to be fine, smiling, nodding, cracking weak jokes, acting alive. But inside, my chest carried a silent weight. How long can I fake this before I collapse? No one around me had the answer. Neither did I. I convinced myself I was being cautious. "Not yet," I said. "The timing isn't right." But what was I waiting for, a miracle? I was scared, afraid of failure, of pain. So I wrapped fear in excuses and called it logic. Friends told me I was wasting potential. They said, "You're stronger than this." I laughed it off, but their words stung. Because they were right, and I knew it. But admitting that truth was unbearable. My nights were worse than my days. I'd lie in bed, eyes wide open in the dark, thoughts looping, haunting me endlessly. "You should have tried harder. You failed." Each whisper dug deeper into my sea. Food became comfort. Screen became escape. Scrolling endlessly, searching for distraction. The glow of the phone numbed me briefly, but once it dimmed, the emptiness returned, and the silence screamed louder than before. The problem wasn't outside, it was inside, a war between who I was and who I could be. I hated the weakness, but clung to comfort. Every easy choice was a knife to my future, and every knife left scars I couldn't erase. I told myself I wasn't ready to change, but the truth? Change terrified me. If I tried and failed, I'd have no excuses. So I chose not to try at all. Safe, but dying. Slowly suffocating in the prison I built. One night, I caught my reflection again. Not in the mirror, on a black phone screen. It startled me. Hollow eyes. A dead stare. I thought, is this really me? My chest sank. The realization felt like a punch to the ribs. That moment burned into my memory because it wasn't just about wasted time. It was about wasted life, wasted soul. Every excuse had stolen a piece of me, and now there was almost nothing left. I felt like a ghost moving through days, alive but not really living, just existing. I hated mornings, feared nights, hated myself. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear, but I stayed, trapped in a silent cycle. It's strange how comfort kills slowly. It doesn't attack. You never hear it coming. It whispers, rest more, try later, stay safe. And without realizing, years slip away. Dreams die quietly, buried under excuses. And so, I became my own enemy. Not the world, not my circumstances, just me, holding myself in chains. I wasn't unlucky. I wasn't cursed. I was simply afraid to face the pain. But the truth has a way of breaking in. It cracks the walls you built to hide. And one day, It forces you to look, not at the world, not at others, but at yourself, stripped and raw. That day came for me sharper than a bee, lied, a single moment, simple but shattering. One question echoed, if not now. When? I froze, my heart hammered, my chest burned. The silence after that question was brutal, because the answer was clear. Never. If I didn't move now, I'd never move. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. I'd keep drowning until the end of my story, and I wasn't ready for my story to end. So there I stood, broken but awake, terrified but aware, weak but alive. And for the first time, honesty hit me. Avoiding pain hadn't protected me at all. It had destroyed me, piece by piece. That's when I knew things had to change. But change meant pain. Change meant risk. Change meant walking into fire with bare feet. And I had no idea if I'd survive the flames. But staying where I was, that was death. I thought skipping one workout, one challenge, one hard choice wouldn't matter. But it did. Each time I hit snooze, each time I quit early, I was teaching myself to surrender before the battle even began. At first, it was small. One skipped run, one late start, one easy excuse. I told myself it was harmless, just today. But just today turned into a pattern. And patterns, if ignored, become chains. Chains you carry without realizing it. I remember staring at my alarm clock. The numbers glowed red in the darkness. 5 o'clock a.m., my training time, my promise. But the blanket felt warm, safe, perfect. I whispered inside my head, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll wake up. Tomorrow I'll try. That word, tomorrow, became poison. Every time I used it, I weakened today. And soon, today had nothing left in it. One morning, I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the person there. Eyes heavy, shoulders slouched, empty. I was not just skipping workouts. I was skipping life, skipping courage, skipping the version of myself I once dreamed of. The silence in that room was heavy, but inside, my own voice was screaming. This isn't you. This can't be you. Still, I ignored it. Weeks blurred together. Excuse has piled up, and my confidence began to rot quietly in the shadows. I laughed less, I moved slower, and even in conversations with friends, my mind wasn't there. I was shrinking away. When challenges appeared, I backed off. When opportunities came, I hesitated. When life tested me, I failed early. Because I had trained my brain to quit, not in one big moment, but in 1,000 tiny moments no one else could see. One day, something shifted. A memory. I remembered my younger self, hungry, dreaming, believing in impossible things. Where had he gone? What had I done? I had buried him under comfort. I had betrayed him with every easy excuse, and the guilt hit me harder than failure. Because failure is honest, comfort is not. Comfort whispers lies until you rot inside. I realized I wasn't just losing battles, I was losing myself, piece by piece, day by day. And soon, I'd be gone. That realization broke me open. But breaking isn't the end. Breaking is sometimes the only way to see truth. I sat on my bed for hours, thinking, when did I become this weak? When did I stop fighting for my own soul? The more I thought, the more it hurt. And yet deep inside, a spark returned. The same spark I thought I'd killed. It whispered, start again. Just once. Don't think of tomorrow. Think today. The next morning, the alarm rang again. My hand reached out, ready to kill it. The same old reflex, the same betrayal. But I froze. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, fear screaming, comfort pulling me back into its soft prison. And then, something inside me snapped. I threw the blanket off. My feet touched the cold floor. I had made a choice, a small choice, a dangerous choice. But in that moment, it was everything. I was alive again, even in the pain. The run that morning was hell. My legs burned. My lungs screamed for mercy. I wanted to collapse 100 times, but every step was war. War against the old me. War against the quitter inside. War against the chains I had carried. When I finally stopped, sweat dripping, I didn't feel like a winner. I felt broken. But this time, broken with pride. Because quitting had lost. Even once. And in that one small victory, I saw hope. That's when I understood the truth. Strength is not built in grand moments. It's built in the invisible ones. The decision to rise instead of snooze. The choice to endure instead of escape. The courage to face pain instead of hide. Each one seems small, almost nothing. But they add up. They shape destiny. They decide who you become. I had learned the hard way. And now I carried that lesson like a scar on my soul. A scar I would never ignore again. Looking back now, I'm grateful. Grateful that I failed. That I tasted the poison of comfort so deeply I almost drowned. Because without that fall, I would have never understood what was at stake. And what was at stake was me. I know now. Every choice is training. You're either training yourself to fight or training yourself to surrender. And surrender, once it becomes a habit, is the slowest, quietest way to die. That was my backstory, my failure, my wake-up call. And it still echoes inside. Because even now, when I wake at 5 a.m. and the comfos, art whispers, stay a little longer, I remember that mirror. I remember the man I almost became, the man who lived small, the man who betrayed himself without even noticing. And I refuse to be him again. Never. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. That is why I fight. That is why I rise. Comfort didn't just steal my progress, it stole my identity, my sense of self. The person I once dreamed of becoming was vanishing in the silence of easy choices. Every soft cushion I embraced cut me deeper. I began to notice it in small ways first. The alarm clock would ring sharp and loud. My hand would slam it down with no thought. 5 more minutes won't hurt, I told myself. But those 5 minutes multiplied like poison. At work, I felt my fire fading day by day. Tasks piled up on my desk like mountains. Instead of climbing them, I just stared. Tomorrow, I'll tackle it, I whispered inside. Tomorrow never came. My body betrayed me too. I skipped the gym once, then twice, then forever. The mirror showed a softer, slower version of me. My shoulders slouched. My steps dragged heavy. This isn't who I wanted to be. Dreams I once guarded, like treasures, rotted. The book I planned to write stayed empty. The business idea faded like smoke in wind. Even my relationships weakened into silence. I was present, but never alive. One evening I sat alone in my room. The lamp glowed faintly, shadows spread wide. I stared at my reflection in the dark window. A hollow man looked back with tired eyes. Where did my strength go? I remembered being younger, burning with fire. I believed I was destined for greatness. But comfort twisted those beliefs into dust. I wasn't becoming strong. I was dissolving. Each choice carved away another piece of me. Friends noticed the change before I admitted it. "You don't smile the same," one of them said. Another asked, "What happened to your drive?" I laughed it off, but inside I crumbled. They can see what I refused to face. Nights became the hardest battlefield. I'd lie in bed, scrolling endlessly on my phone, watching others live the life I once wanted. Each video, each photo was a knife to my chest. Why not me? But I knew the answer all too well, because I'd traded my hunger for comfort, because I said later when I needed now, because I chose easy paths that went nowhere. Comfort had chained me without me noticing. I began to feel trapped inside my own life. Every routine was a cage I built myself. Wake up late, work half-heartedly, waste time. Repeat again tomorrow. With no escape, the cycle crushed my spirit piece by piece. My family's eyes told stories they never spoke. They wanted more for me. They expected more. But how could I explain my quiet collapse? How could I say, "I'm losing myself"? Shame silenced me. Deep inside, I felt like an actor, smiling, nodding, pretending I was fine. But beneath the mask, I was drowning in the shallow waters of safety, and no one could see me sinking. Then came the worst moment of all. An old friend achieved the dream I abandoned. He published the book I once wanted to write. I congratulated him with shaking hands. But my soul screamed, that should have been me. I realized comfort didn't just slow me down. It erased me. It stripped me bare. I wasn't only behind, I was disappearing, becoming a ghost in my own story, and the world didn't even notice. The tension grew unbearable. Every breath felt heavy with this regret. Every day felt like a punishment I deserved. I hated myself for what I had become. Is this my fate? To fade without a fight? My mind waged war against itself. One voice whispered, "Rest, it's fine." The other screamed, "Wake up before it's over." The battle played out every single day, and most days, comfort won. But the cost kept rising higher. I lost time. I lost respect. I lost faith in who I was. Worst of all, I lost the dreamer in me, the one who once believed anything was possible. One night, I couldn't sleep at all. I sat on the floor holding my head. My chest felt tight, breath shallow and weak. I thought, if I die like this, what will remain? The answer was terrifying. Nothing. Tears burned my eyes, but I stayed silent. Not even tears could erase my failure. I had to face the raw truth inside me. Comfort wasn't innocent. It was a thief. It stole everything I once held sacred, and that realization shook me to the core. Because if I kept living this way, there'd be no story worth telling. No victory, no growth, no legacy. Only the slow death of wasted potential. But here's the haunting part. Even as I knew all this in my heart, I still clung to comfort like a lifeline. Because breaking free meant facing pain. And pain was the one thing I feared most. The consequence of comfort wasn't small. It was monumental, soul-crushing, eternal. I wasn't just losing time, I was losing life, and the cost wasn't in hours or days. The cost was me. And if I didn't change, soon nothing would remain. Not the dreams, not the fire, not even the shell, just emptiness where a person once lived. That was the true consequence of comfort, the death of who I was meant to be. But deep down, a question remained. If comfort had stolen everything I was, could I ever take it back? Or had the damage already gone too far? The silence gave no answer, only fear. One morning, I stood before the mirror. The glass was cold, mist clinging to its edges. I stared, but the face staring back felt foreign. Dark circles framed hollow, tired eyes. I barely recognized the person I had become. I whispered to myself, "Who are you now?" The words echoed inside, sharp as broken glass. I had chased comfort for so long, avoiding pain. Yet all that comfort had drained my spirit. I saw a ghost wearing my reflection. That was the moment something cracked inside. I realized pain was never the real enemy. It was comfort that poisoned me slowly, quietly. Comfort had wrapped me in chains of weakness, and I had mistaken it for safety. My heart pounded as memories flooded my mind. Every time I hit snooze on my alarm, every time I said, maybe tomorrow, not today, every excuse I whispered to avoid the struggle, each had stolen a piece of my potential. I clenched my fists and leaned closer, trembling. The mirror showed fear carved deep into me. But beneath the fear was something else. Fire. It flickered faintly like a hidden ember, and for the first time, I noticed it. I thought of all the nights I wasted, scrolling endlessly, chasing temporary dopamine highs. Meanwhile, my dreams lay dying in silence. I kept burying them under layers of ease, but ease was burying me deeper every day. I heard my father's voice in my head. He used to say, "Discomfort is your teacher." I ignored him, thinking comfort was the prize. But now I saw comfort was the slow death, and pain was the true doorway to growth. I slammed my palms against the sink, shaking. Water droplets scattered like sparks in the air. "I can't live like this anymore," I growled. The voice didn't sound weak. It sounded alive. For once, it carried a weight I believed. The thought terrified me and thrilled me. What if I opted running from pain entirely? What if I embraced it, welcomed it even? The idea twisted through my veins like fire. I knew I could never unhear that truth. I decided right then, I would face pain. Not tomorrow, not when things felt easier. I would face it today, right this moment. Because every delay was another grave I dug, and I was tired of living like the dead. I stepped back from the mirror, breathing hard. The room felt charged, heavy with unseen energy. Every cell in my body buzzed with tension. The old me begged for comfort, pleaded softly, but the new me whispered, "Step forward." I tied my running shoes and walked outside. The morning air hit me like shards of ice. Every part of me screamed to turn back, but I clenched my jaw and kept moving. Each step echoed with a silent declaration, change. The pavement felt endless beneath my trembling legs. Within minutes, my lungs burned like fire. Sweat poured. My body begged for surrender. But I told myself, this is the doorway. And I forced my feet to keep striking forward. I pushed until my vision blurred with pain. The old me would have quit right then. But quitting was no longer an option now. I had to choose. Stay broken or transform. And I chose the fire that could forge me. As I stumbled back home, legs shaking wildly, I collapsed against the wall, chest heaving hard. Every muscle screamed with agony, but I smiled because the pain proved something I had forgotten. I was still alive. I was still fighting. I looked at my hands, trembling uncontrollably. They weren't the hands of a coward anymore. They were hands touched by struggle, by truth, the truth that comfort had lied to me, and pain was the only honest voice left. In that exhaustion, a strange calm washed over. Not relief, but a clarity I'd never felt. I finally understood why I had suffered before. It wasn't because pain broke me. It was hiding me. I had been too afraid to step through it. I whispered aloud, almost in disbelief. Enough. Enough of running. Enough of avoiding the fire. Every time I faced pain, I grew stronger. Every time I ran from it, I grew smaller. The choice was brutal, but beautifully simple. That day, my reflection shifted in the mirror. I no longer saw just the weakness and fear. I saw the shadow of the person I could be. A warrior waiting to be carved out of stone. But only pain could sculpt me into that form. The realization burned into me like a brand. If I wanted to live, I had to die first. Not a physical death, but the death of comfort. The death of the coward I had been before. Only then could the real me be born. I clenched my jaw and whispered a vow. From this day, I embrace the storm. Not half-hearted, not as a passing attempt, but as a creed to live and bleed by. Because pain was not my curse, it was my key. And as I stared into my own eyes again, I knew there was no going back anymore. The old me was gone, buried in the past. The new me had stepped through the doorway, and the world would never see me the same. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at a face I barely recognized anymore. My eyes carried a kind of heaviness, not from sleep, but from running away, running from fear, from pain, from myself. I had always chosen comfort, always chosen the easy way out, but something inside told me that comfort was the prison. That softness was killing me, and I knew if I didn't break free, I would never become who I could be. So I started small, smaller than anyone would imagine. It began with a single decision: cold showers, no warm water, no safe softness, just ice crashing against my skin. My body screamed, my mind begged me to stop, but I stayed, shivering, teeth rattling, my lungs burning as I gasped for air. Every instinct told me to quit, but I whispered to myself, stay. And in that moment, something inside cracked, not broken, but open. The first shower lasted less than 2 minutes, but when I stepped out, dripping, trembling, I felt like I had climbed, bed, a mountain. Not because I conquered water, but because I conquered myself. The next morning, I did it again, and again. Each day, the water didn't change. It was still cold, merciless, sharp as knives. But I changed. I learned to breathe. I learned to relax into the discomfort. And slowly I realized the water was not the enemy. My fear was. The voice in my head that said, I can't. The whisper that told me quit. That was the true battle. And with every cold shower, I was killing that voice piece by piece. But I didn't stop there. I needed to push further. So I laced up my old running shoes, shoes that had collected dust for years. And I stepped out into the street before dawn, when the world was still sleeping. The first run was torture. My chest burned, my legs screamed. Sweat poured down my back. Every step felt like fire. I wanted to stop after 5 minutes. My body told me, "You can't run." My mind agreed. But then I remembered the cold showers. I whispered, "Stay," and I kept moving, step by step, breath by breath. The pain didn't vanish, but I learned something. Pain is not the end. It's the beginning, the doorway to strength, the proof that I was alive. Day after day, I ran. Some mornings my body felt like lead. Other days, the road felt endless. But each time I returned home, drenched in sweat, heart pounding, I looked in the mirror and saw a different person. Not stronger yet, but braver. Not faster yet, but harder. The runs were not about speed. They were about silence. Silencing the voice that begged me to quit. Silencing the part of me that had lived in chains. Then came the hardest part. Rejection. Not from the water, not from the road, from people. I had always avoided it. Always played safe, but deep down, I knew rejection was the one thing that terrified me the most. So I forced myself into situations where I couldn't hide. I asked for opportunities I knew might be denied. I spoke up when silence felt safer. I walked into rooms with my heart pounding, prepared to be told no. And I was. Again and again. Faces looked at me, unimpressed. Voices shut me down. Doors closed in my face. Every rejection felt like a knife, a sting, a reminder that I wasn't good enough. Yet. But with each no, I learned. I learned that rejection didn't kill me. It refined me. It burned away the weakness, the need for approval. Every no was not a death. It was fuel. And with every sting, I grew hungrier. At night, I would lie awake hearing those voices replay in my head. "You're not ready. You're not enough." The words echoed like ghosts. But instead of shrinking, I used them. I told myself, "Good. Let them doubt me, because doubt is power, if you let it drive you." And slowly, rejection became less of an enemy and more of a teacher. A brutal teacher, yes, but one that forged me into someone I had never been before. Cold showers taught me to endure pain. Runs taught me to silence fear. Rejection taught me to embrace failure. And together, these small acts of discomfort began shaping me into something new. But here's the truth. Transformation doesn't come in one day. It doesn't strike like lightning. It builds, quietly, patiently. With every small battle you refuse to lose. Until one day, you wake up and realize you are no longer the same. And I wasn't. My body was harder. My mind was sharper. My spirit was alive. I had stepped into discomfort so many times that it no longer scared me. In fact, I started craving it. Because discomfort was not punishment. Discomfort was the proof that I was growing. The signal that I was on the right path. The sign that I was alive. Yet even as I embraced this new life, I didn't know what was coming next. A test far greater than old showers, far harder than running, far sharper than rejection, a test that would push me to the edge of breaking. And I had no idea it was already on its way. I began testing myself in everyday life, not in extreme ways, but in moments where my mind begged me to stay comfortable. When I felt that pull, I leaned into the opposite. One morning, I walked into a cafe. The line was long. People impatient. My heart raced. My palms were sweaty. I looked at the stranger beside me and asked, "How's your day going so far?" He looked surprised. Then he smiled. We talked for a minute, just small things. But inside me, it felt like climbing a mountain. Facing rejection wasn't about others. It was about rewiring me. I realized discomfort is everywhere. Not just in ice water, not just in pain. It's in conversations, in silence, in fear of being judged, in moments I wanted to run instead of face. Each day, I picked one small thing. Sometimes it was running farther than planned. Sometimes it was holding eye contact longer. Sometimes it was saying no when I always said yes. The more I leaned into discomfort, the less it felt like punishment. It started feeling like power. Every decision built a brick inside me, stacking into an unshakable wall. I began journaling at night. I wrote about each challenge, each fear, each time I resisted comfort. Seeing it on paper reminded me I was no longer the person who avoided life. One entry read, "Today I wanted to quit. My legs were burning on the run. My mind screamed to stop, but I didn't. And when I crossed the finish line, I realized pain is temporary." The entries became proof of change, not for anyone else, but for me. When I flipped back through pages, I saw patterns, how fear shrank, how my confidence grew step by step. Soon, discomfort became my teacher. It whispered truths comfort never did. Stay a little longer. Push one more rep. Speak when silence feels safer. It never lied, never misled. I saw people living differently. Friends chasing pleasure, always looking for shortcuts, avoiding pain. I felt the same pull, but I knew now ease was a trap disguised as safety. One night, after a brutal workout, I lay on the floor, drenched in sweat. My chest ached, my breath heavy, yet inside I felt alive. More alive than in years of hiding behind comfort. I whispered to myself, "This is it. This is growth. This is who I was meant to be." For the first time, I didn't feel weak. I felt strong, not just in body, but in soul. I used to believe strength was built in silence, in comfort, in safety, in the walls I created. But every wall I built made me weaker inside, because behind those walls, nothing grew at all. Comfort became the prison I called home. I told myself I was fine. I told myself I was safe. But deep down, I knew I was running. Running from the pain, from the work, from the moments that demanded more than I could give. And in that running, my spirit began to fade. One day I realized something shocking. Weakness doesn't die in comfort. It multiplies there. It waits. It grows. It feeds on the silence I allowed. The only way to kill it was pain. Not reckless pain, but chosen pain. Deliberate. Because pain is not the enemy. Pain is the fire. It's the forge where broken iron becomes steel. It's the storm where old branches break away and new strength takes root. Pain doesn't end me. It reveals the power hidden inside me. I used to hate the weight of struggle. I thought it was unfair. I thought life had turned against me, but I see it differently now. Every struggle was not punishment. It was preparation. Every weight I carried was shaping who I'd become. Comfort gave me nothing. Pain gave me meaning. It gave me stories. It gave me scars that shine. It gave me the chance to rebuild from pieces. And in that rebuilding, I found myself again. The truest version of me stood in the fire. The truth is simple. Strength isn't found in the easy path. It's never discovered in shortcuts. Strength is born in fire, in sweat, in silence, when no one's watching. It's born in the moment I choose pain instead of comfort's sweet lie. Every person watching this has their battle. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's loss, maybe it's failure. But hear this, you don't escape by hiding. You escape by facing it, by walking into the fire and refusing to look away. Ask yourself, what are you avoiding right now? Which battle are you pretending doesn't exist? The answer is where your weakness lives, and that's where you must go. That's the door to strength. That's the path you keep ignoring. You won't feel ready. You'll never feel ready. But readiness isn't the point. The point is to step anyway, to walk even while afraid, to take one strike at weakness, one blow, one action. That's how the fire begins. Step by step. I used to think winning meant never falling. But winning is rising every time I collapsed. It's showing up when my hands are shaking. It's standing tall when the voice in my head says, quit. True strength is the refusal to quit. And when you endure, when you hold steady in the storm, something shifts. One day, you'll look back and realize the pain didn't destroy you. It destroyed the weaker version of you instead. And in its place, you were reborn, unshaken. The fire you fear is the doorway to freedom. Step inside. Let the flames burn what is false. Let it strip away the excuses, the lies, the stories you told yourself. Then watch what's left. A version of you that cannot be broken. That's the truth I carry now. Weakness doesn't die in comfort. It dies in pain. And strength? Strength is not given. It is earned, forged in struggle, carved into scars, written into fire. That's where I found the real me, waiting. I used to think pain was punishment, that it meant I was broken, weak, or unworthy. But now I know it was never punishment. It was the path, the doorway to who I am, the teacher I kept running away from. And maybe right now, you're standing at that door. Maybe life feels heavy. Maybe it hurts. Maybe you're fighting battles no one can see. And you're tired of pretending you're okay. I know that feeling. I lived it. But here's the truth. No one told me then. Pain is not your enemy. It's your invitation. It's asking you to grow, to fight, to rise. It's showing you what comfort will never give. The strength to step into the unknown. So don't run from it anymore. Don't numb it. Don't bury it. Don't hide. Step into it. Feel it. Face it. Head on. Because on the other side of pain is the version of you the world needs most. And if this message reached you today, don't let it just end here. Take one step right now. One decision, one action, one choice to stop running and start rising. And before you leave this video, I want you to do 3 simple things. First, hit that like button. Because when you do, this message will reach someone else who needs it right now. Second, subscribe. Because together, we are building a community of fighters, dreamers, and people who refuse to let pain decide their future. I want you to be part of that family. And third, drop a comment below. Tell me your battle. Tell me your struggle. Because sometimes healing begins not when we win alone, but when we realize we are not alone in the fight. Maybe you'll see someone in the comments who is walking the same path. Maybe your words will inspire them, or their words will strengthen you. That's how we rise together. So the next time life hurts, don't run, don't hide, don't let fear chain you down. Step into it, walk through it, face it, because pain is not punishment. It's the map to who you are meant to be. And when you finally rise from it, you won't just be stronger. You'll be unstoppable. You'll be unbreakable. And you'll be free. So, are you ready? If you are, prove it. Smash that like button. Subscribe right now and join me on this journey because together we are rewriting the meaning of pain. Together we are building a generation that doesn't run from the fire. We walk through it and rise. And one last thing before you go. Remember this. Comfort kills potential. But pain creates legends. Which one will you be?